Hi, it's Hope and welcome to the video. This is going to be my July wrap-up and stats. If you hear any noise like that, that is a scent thing that sprays every so often. If you notice that the background's different than my normal videos, it's because I'm slowly moving around my room and this view won't last probably till the next video. So I'm going to go through the stats and my goals of each month first and then into the books. There are only 10 books in this video, I think. The rest are in my mid-month wrap-up, which I will leave linked in the iCard. If I look like I'm sweating, it's because I am. It is really hot out today. So we'll start off with my stats. So I'm going to look over here because I have the stats over here, but I will pop the graphic up here. So in July, I read 18 books, and a total of 6,539 pages, and the average star rating was a 3.9. Fun fact, that is the lowest average star rating that I've had this year. Most of the time it is 4-star average or above. I read 2 audiobooks, 12 ebooks, and 4 physical books, of which the genres, 2 were adult, 4 were new adult, and 12 were YA. For genres, I read 4 contemporary, 9 fantasy, 1 paranormal, 3 romances, and 1 sci-fi. And then for my goals, which I will also pop up here, goal to read 3 or more genres, I read 5. To read 1 or more LGBTQ+ book, I read 7, if I counted correctly. Although I think 1 you can kind of say well, it's not a main theme, but it is canological that the main character is LGBTQ. So it's I counted it. 1 or more POC author, I read 2. 1 Rick Riordan book. I finally read a Rick Riordan book this month. My goal was to try to read 1 each month, and for 3 months I didn't. And then 2 or more age ranges, I read 3. So on to the books. Again, the first half of the month, I have a whole separate video. Sorry for the angle change. For some reason, my anxiety said we weren't filming. So the first book that I'm going to talk about in this video is The Haunting Life of Huntleigh Parrish by Stephanie Ann. And this is a paranormal ghost story where we follow Huntleigh Parrish, who hunts ghosts with her aunt. And essentially, when Huntleigh has to move to this new city to try to take down the big bad ghost of Josiah Moncrat, who killed her parents 4 years prior, 3 or 4 years prior. That kind of happens, and as well as Huntleigh trying not to fall for her new neighbor Weston, and just trying to overall be a normal teen. And this I really loved. I give it 5 stars. This normally isn't the type of book I'd love, but I loved it. I read it in 2 days. It was really quick. I loved the characters, and I was sent an ARC of this by the author, so I got to read it a few days before release date, and this was released in July, so don't worry, it's out. Please check it out. I love Stephanie Ann as an author. She's such an amazing person. The next book I read was Neon Gods by Katee Robert, and this was my first ever Katee Robert book. And essentially this is a kind of erotic Hades and Persephone retelling where, where essentially we are in a modern Olympus type thing, and Hades controls what they call the lower portion, is control of the lower portion, and when Persephone runs away from an arranged marriage with Zeus, she stumbles to the lower section of the city and then starts a fake relationship with Hades, and it is very kinky. It has very things I've never read before, and I gave this a 4-star. I really liked it. I'm really glad it was my first Katee Robert book, and yeah, definitely excited for more books in this series. The book Electric Idol comes out in January, and I'm just can it be January, because I love to read more about this world and all of that. The next book I read was Illuminae by Amie, Kauffman, and Kristoff. This I give 5-star. This is a sci-fi where essentially we follow, well, we don't really follow anyone, I guess. It is told in mixed media, and essentially we have this colony that is attacked by this company, and then they are rescued by these 3 ships. And when one of the ships, mysteriously, an illness breaks out and then gets destroyed, our 2 main characters of Katee and Ezra kind of have to figure it out, but the plot twist is that Katee and Ezra broke up the day that the attack happened, and all of that. It's mixed media. I listened to this audiobook and read the physical book. I borrowed the physical book from my library as well as the audiobook. And I really like this. I'm actually reading Gemina, which is book 2 this month, like the month of August, so I'm very excited to continue with that series. And I have an entire review for this book up on my channel. I'll link that in the iCard and the description. Next we have A Deal with the Elf King by Elise Kova, and this we follow Luelle, who is a human, and every 100 years the Elf King crosses the border to take a human queen to essentially regain the magic in his lands, essentially, is like the rough thing, and it is enemies to lovers and all of that. It is, I'd say it's upper YA, borderline new adult. I have it labeled as new adult on my spreadsheet, although it could be YA, depending on how you look at it. But I really like this. I gave it a solid 4 stars. It's not as good as I hoped, but it hit all the right places that I needed it to, and it was just a fun little fantasy romance, enemies to lovers, and all of that. Next we have Meet Cute Diary by Emery Lee, and this we follow Noah, who owns this like blog called The Meet Cute Diary, where it follows a bunch of these trans meet cutes. But the plot twist is that none of these meet cutes are real, and Noah makes them up. So when Noah goes to live with his brother in Denver, I had forgot where it took place for a second there, it is revealed that the blog is fake, and Noah has to form this fake relationship with this boy named Drew to kind of prove that it's true. Like, if Noah can have this trans meet cute, why aren't these other stories real type thing? And then that goes, and I do kind of want to do an entire review on this to talk about a few different aspects that would be spoilers. Although I gave this a 4.5 stars. I will say that I can obviously not say like accurate for representation or anything like that, because, well, cis woman here, Noah is a like trans male, so like I can't say anything about that representation or anything like that. But it was just a cute, fun read that talked about it briefly talked about a few different topics that I feel like were discussed well, and there's growth of characters and just all of that. Next I read Flame and Starlight by Dana Isley, and this I gave a 4 star. This is a fantasy romance where we follow, what is our main character's name? Where we follow Alice, who lives in the UK, I can't remember exactly what city, and one day when she's going out drinking with her friends, she gets kidnapped by the High Lord Asher and gets taken to the Fey Realms, which are a place that she only thought were in these like fairy tale stories, but they're turned out to be real, and is revealed that she's half Fey herself. And it is a fantasy romance with a little bit of smut and a lot of stuff going on. It was really good. I did read the first probably like 70% on Wattpad when this was originally published on Wattpad, so I knew a lot of the story already, but I did really enjoy it. Next we have A Song of Race and Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown, and this is a West African inspired fantasy where we have Malik, who travels to the city with his 2 sisters, and then when his younger sister Nadia gets kidnapped, he has to kill the princess Karina to get his sister back. Then we have Karina, who is a princess, who just lost her mother, and to revive her mother back to life, she has to kill the king, but there is no king because her father's dead and all that, and she's now the queen technically, so she has to marry somebody and kill him to revive her mother, and is enemies to lovers. I gave this a 4-star. It was good. It wasn't as good as I hoped, but I will be picking up the second book because it's only a duology. Like, and I did really love all of the characters and just all of that. It was just really good. Next we have The Burning Maze by Riordan, which is the 3rd book in the Trials of Apollo series, so I can't really explain this book, but I can kind of explain the first one. Essentially we have the god Apollo, who is cursed by Zeus and put into a human form, and without his magic, and well, it is like magic and abilities and all that. You know how like the gods have like these abilities, yada yada yada, and essentially he has to kind of figure things out. I don't really know how to describe it, and this I gave a 3-star. I read this audiobook, which I do say I would have enjoyed it less if I would have read a physical book. I will say that. I think I do like the audiobooks of this series better. I will say the first one's still my favorite. In this we had a character death that I already knew was happening, and literally when it happened, I had to rewind and go, wait, did that character just die? The answer is yes, because it was so anticlimactic. But I will say that it is a really fun series, and even though this is only a 3-star, I am going to continue the series. I think I'm going to push through it. Even if I don't like the last 2, I'm going to continue this series because I want to say that I have read all of the Riordan verse. And this, after I finish the Trials of Apollo series, I will just have 2 series left, and I'm hoping to get those finished by the end of 2022. Originally it was 2021, but that's not happening. The next book I read was Some Girls Do by Jennifer Dugan, and this I gave a 4-star. This we follow Morgan, who is a track athlete who moves to a new school after getting essentially like kicked out of her old school solely for the fact that she is gay. And then we follow Ruby, who is a pageant girl because of her mother, but all Ruby really wants to do is work on vehicles and be a mechanic. When Morgan and Ruby meet, at first they bump heads and all of that, but then it's kind of they develop feelings for each other, and that's kind of the gist of it. And I did really like this. I give it a 4 stars. It's just a kind of a cute, like, little sapphic romance, and it's a fairly short book. It's like 340 pages, so it was a fun read. Yeah. Then we have Trick 6 Venom by Penelope Douglas, and this is a new adult sapphic enemies to lovers. So essentially we follow Clay, who is this perfect Christian girl, like all of that, and then we have Liv, or Olivia. Olivia is her full name, but I'm going to be calling her Liv, who is kind of essentially what you describe as like not the exact opposite of Clay. She is from across the tracks. She is only at this like Christian school because of a scholarship that she earned and all of that. And Clay and Liv have been bumping heads for 4 years. So since freshman year they've been bumping heads because they don't want to reveal the fact that they like each other, and it is just a bully romance, enemies to lovers, and I really liked it. I gave it a 4 star. I will say it is my least favorite Penelope Douglas book, but I still really loved it. It's full of smut, but I will say that this smut, some of it was good, others I was just like, okay, but like, why? Like, some of the things were just a little bit like, you get what I'm saying? And it's not that the fact that it was like female, oh my god, no, I loved it. But there was just things I was like, do you know that, like, is that, you get what I'm saying? I'm just gonna move on. And the final book I read this month was Lost Towers by Angelina J. Steffort, and this is the 4th book in the Shattered Kingdom series, so I obviously cannot explain what happens in Lost Towers. But in Shattered Kingdom, we essentially follow Gandrit, who is a child of Vala living in the Kamala Desert. So essentially she is kind of this, she is like almost like this not mercenary, like she knows how to fight, she knows how to all of that, but when a fae named Helon comes and essentially pays for her service to help him, well, to help him help his boss, she travels and ends up having to save this lord's son, and that just kind of like sets off a bunch of other things. This 4th book is way different than what I just described. think of it like, you know how, for example, I'm going to use Throne of Glass, for example, how the first book and the last book are completely, like, they're completely different things. That's kind of how this series is. It kind of just, like, expands and grows as we move on. This, I say, is my least favorite, although I still give it a 5 stars. A theory that I had in the end of book 3 came true, and I was like, yes, it's gonna switch the dynamics of so many different characters. But the ending, I literally read the last entire chapter sobbing, so there's that. So those were the books that I read this month. Again, the first books that I read this month will be linked in the description and the iCard. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what books you read this month. I'd love to hear it. And